Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Next Level Podcast. Got Darren Harmon and I talking some post Super Bowl news. How you doing today, Darren?
I'm doing pretty good. We had a good weekend of football. Last weekend of football for a while. It was definitely a good one though.
hmm Yeah, so the Super Bowl, I thought it was a pretty good Super Bowl. Kind of lived up to my expectations. I think that overall the Rams showed they were the better team. There were some controversial plays, the one with Jalen Ramsey on the sideline, but I really think that was made up for with Cooper Cup holding call that a lot of people didn't know if that was holding or not at the end of the game. So overall, I think it kind of balanced out as far as the refs go, and I think the Rams proved to be the best team.
I definitely think their leadership showed. The Rams, you have Aaron Donald, very big leader, Von Miller, even Eric Weddle. I don't know if you saw the picture. He tore his pec, I believe, in the first or second quarter. Played
hmm
with played with a torn pec in two places the rest of the game. Matthew Stafford, Odell Beckham, really, even though his injury. Um, it was a great team win. I mean, a great game by the Bengals as well, but I think the Rams leadership really put them on top.
Yeah, and the Bengals they were pretty close there. I mean, they competed hard. They played right with the Rams. They're a team that I could see competing for a Super Bowl for the next decade or so. They had the pieces in place. Definitely a good season for them because they had like a bunch of people once they landed supporting them, and I know their fan base is really excited about this team and their future. And they're 0-3 in Super Bowls now in their history, so still looking for that first title, but they definitely have a lot to be excited about in Cincinnati.
Yep, definitely a great future ahead. I mean, you have those three receivers. They're all young. Probably, I think they're all still on their rookie contract. You have Joe Burrow, second year. Once you get some help on that offensive line, I think that is a Super Bowl winning team.
Yeah, I mean Burrow, what like supposed to setting records or whatever for sacks in a single postseason or a single season. I mean, he was taking a lot of punishment over the course of this season, which in general you think that the team will struggle because of that. They were the best team in the AFC and they still had all those sack problems. So yeah, if you're right, if they can figure that out, they could be a really dominant team. Their defense, as long as they can continue to do some good things, they had a lot of free agent signings over the last couple of years contributed to the success on the defensive side of the ball. And they're a team that I could really see in the AFC North and in the AFC. Now, the Chiefs and Bills are definitely going to be up there competing with them, but the Bengals definitely show that they're a force to reckon with. So, and as far as the Rams go, how do you think like about Aaron Donald? Reports that he might retire.
I heard that and I was kind of shocked. He's been a dominant force, arguably the best defensive tackle since he was drafted in 2014. I wouldn't see why he'd retire now. I mean, if there's personal reasons, that's different, but he is at the top of his game currently. He's the best defensive tackle in all of football. I mean, it's
Yeah,
just
yeah. I
crazy.
mean, he's up there among the legends of the game on the defensive side of the ball. I wonder if he feels like he has nothing left to prove. He's what, a three-time defensive player of the year. He's now got a Super Bowl ring. And for some of these guys, when once you do like that many things and like you've proven yourself, they just feel like, why would I take the punishment? Because playing in the NFL is a big time commitment, obviously. And it's a big physical commitment on your body. And I'm sure he's financially set now for a long time. So I can understand it. Obviously from our perspective, we look at him as like, oh, you're playing so great. But from his perspective, I can understand like why you might want to retire early, now that you've basically done everything you want to do in the NFL. So yeah, I mean, I think that he could come back and still be great, and I think he knows that. But ultimately, he's gotten to the point where it's like, do I even want to continue doing this anymore? I've done what I need to do.
I mean, you see it more often than not now within the last couple of years. You have Patrick Willis retired early, dominant linebacker. Luke Kuechly retired early. Andrew Luck retired at the top of his game. He had
Yeah,
so much left. It's just I don't know. It's very interesting to look at.
yeah.
Very shocking.
Football is just a rough sport. I think a lot of people forget the fact that it's not like a sport you just go out and play like basketball. You could probably be okay with it. It's like football is a sport that not only is it a physical toll, but it's a big time commitment, training camp and practices, and ultimately like a lot of these guys have families too. And I'm sure their wives, I know like Giselle with Tom Brady's been begging him to retire for a while. It's just like their families probably would love to have dad home and not worrying about football all the time, working out and all that stuff to get in that tip top shape they need for Sundays. And so, yeah, I get it. I totally get it. I don't blame Donald for retiring, but like you said, he can come back and still be a stud. So,
So our next, well, we were just talking about the Super Bowl. Our next topic is the Hall of Fame. Before we get into this year's class of the Hall of Fame, we have Aaron Donald, we have Von Miller, pretty much clear cut first ballot Hall of Famers. Is Matthew Stafford a Hall of Famer?
see, I mean, that's a good question. I think if he continues to do some good things with the Rams, because he's, what age is he? Like 30 something, 33? I don't know.
He was
Not that old.
drafted in 09, so he's probably 33, 32, 34.
Maybe even, yeah, he might even be older. I don't. Yeah, he's the way the quarterbacks are playing now, though, he can play around until 40. If he continues to put together some good seasons, even if he doesn't win another Super Bowl, if he can find a way to get to the playoffs, maybe get to another one and win another one, I think he for sure will be in. Now, he didn't do a whole lot with the Lions, even though he was considered to be a good quarterback just on a bad team. There are a lot of quarterbacks like that I feel like won't get in. They were just like some good quarterbacks, just weren't unfortunately on bad teams. And Stafford proved that he's a really good QB. Now, is this kind of like borderline Hall of Fame? I can't really for sure say yes, he should be in. I feel like the Hall of Fame should be something that they're like this real studs of the game, not just like really good players, like just legendaries. And I would not put Stafford in that category, like legend yet, but he could definitely get there in the next 5 years or so.
I agree. I definitely agree. He has, I mean, the statistics are there. I mean, like you said, he probably has another 4 or 5 years maybe to increase those statistics. It's definitely going to be, there's been a lot of debate recently. So we'll get into this year's class. I'm a big fan of the Hall of Fame. Wasn't too impressed with this class. You have a clear-cut, deserving player, Tony Baselli, only Jacksonville Jaguar in the Hall of Fame, one of the best offensive linemen in the 90s. I think that was a good selection. And another great selection was Dick Vermeil, coach of the Greatest Show on Turf, also led the Eagles to a Super Bowl. So I think those were the two best selections in the class.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the other ones, you have Leroy Butler, Green Bay Packers safety, Sam Mills, anchor of the Saints and Panthers defense. You have Richard Seymour, won 3 Super Bowls with the Patriots at defensive tackle. Cliff Branch was the senior representative from the Raiders, won a Super Bowl with the Raiders. Art McNally, he was head officiating. He was nicknamed the father of modern officiating. And then my questionable pick was Bryant Young from the 49ers, won 1 Super Bowl. Just the statistics weren't there for Bryant Young. I'm not sure how he got in.
I think a lot of these, there aren't a ton of great Hall of Fame options in this class as far as just like pure raw star power. I mean, a lot of these guys, obviously, just to be even considered, you have to have a great career. But you're right. Like, I think there's certain guys in the Hall of Fame that, in my opinion, shouldn't be in. And I understand the fact that like you want to put like 5, 6, 7 guys in every year, but I feel like you shouldn't do that. I would honestly rather have it be like 3 or 4. Don't try and force it, because I know that that's how the voters feel, like, because a lot of times they're sports writers or whatever, and they typically grow up around these guys, or like they write about these guys and view them in person a lot. But I just think that you need to look at, okay, what do we consider a Hall of Fame? Because there's certain guys who are good, like they had a great career, but are they truly among the legends? Are they truly deserving of a bust to be put in Canton? I mean, that's the big question. I think it's just relative to everybody on what is deserving of a Hall of Fame. So like you're right, like Bryant Young, a lot of people will be like, okay, like good player, 4-time Pro Bowler, but is he really that special? Does he belong? Probably not. Like I kind of have a high standard, but It's just some people have a lower standard and what they think should be in or not.
And I think one of the bigger things, not to take away any, I mean, congratulations to these Hall of Famers, not to take away from them, but some of the players that didn't get in. So you have the comparison. You have Leroy Butler to Rondé Barber. Rondé Barber didn't get in. He has 9 more picks than Leroy Butler, 8 more sacks, 1 more Pro Bowl. If you're at that standard, then where does statistics play into that?
Yeah, I don't know. That's another thing. It's so relative because everybody has different sets of like what they consider to be important. So some people will look at your stats and they'll be like, that's it. Like that's what I'm going off of. Then a lot of people will care more about like team achievement, and just like a bunch of other little things that play into winning. A lot about what coaches say about you, all that stuff that doesn't show up on the stat sheet. And ultimately, like some people really value the stats, some people don't, and they just vote how they vote. Ultimately, that's how people get in. It's anytime you have people voting over something, you're going to get controversy. I don't care how you do it. Nobody's going to be happy. Every year the Pro Bowl comes out, everybody's saying, why isn't this guy all pro? Same deal. It's the same stuff every single year. Nobody's ever going to be happy. So just how it is. You just got to accept it.
Yeah. Before we move on to our next topic, we had 2 more Hall of Fame snubs that I think were a lot bigger than Rondé Barber. First, you have Devin Hester, the greatest special teamer of all time, had 14 punt return touchdowns, 5 kick return touchdowns, the greatest special teamer of all time. And you have one of the greatest edge rushers of all time, DeMarcus Ware, 138.5 sacks, 9 Pro Bowls, 4 All Pros. How did they not fit in?
Yeah, I think that Ware is definitely better than Bryant Young. I think that Ware is a guy who probably will get in the future. He just didn't get in this year. And Devin Hester, it's just all about, okay, so like he was a great returner, but was that something that you really look at and say, oh, should he belong in the Hall of Fame for? I mean, you look at Ray Guy, a punter that got in, great punter. It's just like, do you value punters? Like that's really what it comes down to. So like Devin Hester, yes, the best special teamer of all time. Anytime you're the best at something in NFL history, you think in your head, okay, belongs in the Hall of Fame. But again, it's about whether or not you value a returner or not. So ultimately, I think Devin Hester should get in just because he had a big impact on the game. It kind of really made teams think about him when punting and kicking. And I think overall he should get in because of that. But I can understand why he doesn't get in as well.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting next few years. There's a lot of players going to be eligible for the first year. You can take us into our next topic.
Before we do that, I want to ask you one question. Do you think Antonio Brown belongs in the Hall of Fame?
I love that question. I've actually been thinking of that question a lot recently.
Do you think Calvin Johnson belongs in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, no doubt. Calvin
Johnson. So AB should be in the Hall of Fame because he has
statistically
he has better stats.
Antonio Brown.
AB has better stats than Calvin Johnson, and he only played like a few more games. Like it wasn't really enough to really. So in everything too, he had more receptions, more receiving yards, more receiving touchdowns, and he won a Super Bowl with the Buccaneers. So which Calvin Johnson,
he's in the. I don't know what they're gonna do. It's gonna be good to see. I personally don't think he gets in. Not saying he shouldn't get in. I think he deserves it. His time in Pittsburgh was incredible. One of the greatest receivers of all time statistically. But you don't know what they're gonna do. You have the whole thing with baseball. I get it's a different situation with the steroids and stuff. But they don't let those guys in. So it's gonna be interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean AB didn't cheat. It's just that he was an off-field nuisance that he's a good player, but it's such a liability, locker room distraction, everything. Like I just remember when he was on the Steelers, I loved him on the field. Like him and Ben had this connection. It was just crazy. They could just like do hand gestures to each other like the middle of a play or something. And they just had this weird like mind connection. And I remember he put up stats that only like Jerry Rice has done, or like I think he had 6 straight years with 100 reception seasons. And I don't think Jerry Rice did that over the course of his career ever. And that's impressive. When you're doing stuff that Jerry Rice didn't even do, you just got to look at AB and say, okay, how much do we care about his off field? So I know T.O. got it.
Yeah.
And of course, like statistically, he's a Hall of Famer. It's not even close, but because he was such an off field liability, a lot of people question whether he should have gotten in. Eventually, they voted him in. So, we'll see what happens with AB. Should be an interesting speech if he gets in the can.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting whole Hall of Fame weekend if AB were to get in.
Yeah, I feel bad too because like I think if AB just had his head on straight and he played like a full career, just how good he could have been. Like how many touchdowns and yards he could have put up if he just wasn't a jerk. I don't.
But the same thing happened, like you said, when T.O. got in, he didn't show up.
Nope.
He didn't show up to the Hall of Fame festivities or anything. So you could have that same situation.
He was his high school or something, I think. I think he did it at his high school, like what he grew up in. Like,
oh yeah. He didn't go to the Hall of Fame.
Has anybody ever done that ever? Like they don't go to Canton to have their speech, like other than T.O.?
No, I don't think that's ever happened before.
Yeah. Okay, so next topic. You want to do the Super Bowl top 10 moments now?
Yeah, we'll finish it off with the top 10.
So Super Bowl top 10 moments, obviously there have been a lot of great moments over the course of the 56 Super Bowls. Number one for me, it's probably got to be the Super Bowl 51 overtime, just like the comeback, if you consider that like the biggest moment, where it was 28-3. I don't think anybody thought the Patriots had a chance. And just the Falcons imploding and Bill Belichick and Brady just finding a way to come back and win. And I think that was probably the biggest moment in NFL Super Bowl history, maybe in NFL history.
Yeah, I agree with that. I had that at my number one too. You can't deny how great Tom Brady is, and literally that was the greatest comeback of all time, especially in the Super Bowl. I don't think there's an argument against that.
Yeah. And then number two, see, I haven't thought too much about this, but if I had to put number two, I think the greatest touchdown pass in NFL history was Ben to Santonio Holmes in Super Bowl 43. That was clutch, and not only was it a great pass, but it was a great catch. And back corner, barely got 2 feet down, had two guys right on him, got hit right after he caught it, hung onto the ball. I mean, that was perfect play. Less than a minute left to win the Super Bowl. I mean, I might be biased because I'm a Steelers fan, but that was a very special moment, I think, in Super Bowl history, and probably the most clutch play I could think of.
I have that catch on my list. It's a little bit lower on my list, but I definitely have it on there. Can't deny that. My number two is the David Tyree helmet catch. The Giants against the Patriots. The Giants don't win that Super Bowl if he doesn't make the catch. Simple enough. David Tyree, that's the only thing he was remembered for. He wasn't really an outstanding football player, didn't do much in his career other than that. So I think, and that leads me into my number three, those type of players. I have the Malcolm Butler interception against the Seahawks on the goal line. You don't give it to Marshawn Lynch, you throw the ball and you get picked off.
Yeah, I mean, a play that'll be always infamous in Seattle Seahawks history. I mean, I would be sick to my stomach if I was a Seahawks fan. You had Marshawn Lynch at the time, probably the best running back in the NFL, and you just don't give it to him. You throw the ball right at the goal line. It just makes me wonder what's going through some of these coaches' heads. Like, I know we're fans, but like we sometimes seem to know a lot more than the coaches at certain points. Number three for me, I'd probably put the David Tyree catch, number three.
Yeah.
Because, that was a crazy play. I mean, everybody thought Eli was down. Like, he was clearly sacked. Somehow got out of it, scrambled out, threw a deep ball, just random in the middle of the field. Then Tyree somehow just clasps the ball to his helmet, comes down with it. That's a crazy play that definitely contributed. And the fact that was over the 16-0, or actually at the time 18-0 Patriots,
Yep.
Everybody in that game
Ended their
thought the
perfect
Patriots.
season.
Yeah, I mean, it was very special Super Bowl and a great underdog moment for the Giants.
So you just said underdog moments. My number 4 is not a Super Bowl play, but the greatest moment. Number 4 is Joe Namath guaranteeing a win in Super Bowl III and coming through and beating the Colts. I think the Jets were obviously overlooked underdogs, like we said last week, kind of like the Bengals this year. I mean, the Colts, they had Johnny Unitas. They had a good team, and Joe Namath and the Jets, Matt Snell, they overcame that. They won Super Bowl III just like he promised.
Mm-hmm. Number 4 for me is the drive that Joe Montana led against the Bengals. And was that Super Bowl? Let's see, that was the 88 season. Not exactly sure what Super Bowl that was in. But Montana, before that drive, I've heard that like he saw a celebrity in the stands. I can't remember which one. He was like, "Hey, he's here." Like, there's a reason why he's called Joe Cool. There's a reason why he was the greatest quarterback of all time until Brady came along. But I think that Montana leading that drive just kind of showed who he was and kind of just a big moment for his entire career. Definitely one of the most clutch drives in NFL history.
Yep, I agree. I have that a little bit lower on my list, but definitely a key moment. Number 4, Mike Jones tackles Kevin Dyson at the 1-yard line, saves the Rams season, greatest show on turf. They win the Super Bowl in 1999.
Mm-hmm.
I just think there isn't a better finish than that. It's an iconic play. One of the greatest teams ever put together. Kurt Warner led them to the Super Bowl from being a backup, led them. They won the Super Bowl. Stop on the 1-yard line. It doesn't get better than that.
Yeah, I think that was definitely a big moment, big tackle. That was an exciting game. I wasn't live yet, but looking at the highlights and stuff, that was an exciting game. Yeah, it's crazy Super Bowl. Super Bowl creates a whole lot of crazy moments.
Yeah.
I know you already mentioned, but the Joe Namath one is number 5 for me. I don't think people realize at the time the underdogs, the Jets were like nobody thought they had a chance. The whole NFL versus AFL thing was a big deal back then, and the Packers the previous 2 years killed the AFL teams, the Chiefs and the Raiders, and a lot of people just expected that to happen with the Colts and Namath. I think the really big thing that made that Super Bowl cool was before the game, despite being extreme underdogs, saying he guarantees they're going to win, and which is a very bold statement, even if you are the favorites. And he went out there and he led that team to a victory against the NFL champion, and really made a lot of people think about the merger that happened in the next couple of years. And I think it was just a really special moment in NFL history.
Yep, I definitely agree. You have Joe Namath he's a kind of an iconic, I wouldn't say one of the greatest quarterbacks. His statistics just simply weren't there, but he's an iconic player.
He's an iconic personality. I think everybody that knows about NFL history loves Joe Namath just because of his
Joe Namath.
Yeah, his personality. Like, I was watching Super Bowl NFL films, and I was watching Super Bowl III, and like that song at the beginning of it, like Broadway Joe, like he's a hero, he's a pro. Like I just think that's a really funny song. It's just like it really makes me think of Joe Namath every time I hear that rhythm. And one of my favorite probably players in NFL history. The fact that he led the Jets to win a Super Bowl too. Like think about Jets fans. Like he's the only guy that really in their history that you can be proud of. I mean,
there was nothing else.
Yeah.
So number 5, I had the John Elway run against the Packers, the helicopter dive to get the first down and lead the Broncos to the Super Bowl. 37-year-old John Elway diving for a first, and not many 37-year-old quarterbacks are doing that ever.
Yeah,
I mean,
big moment, definitely. Yeah, 6 for me. I'm going to put the Malcolm Butler interception there. That was a game that I was actually actively rooting against the Seahawks because I hated that whole Legion of Boom defense. I didn't like their cockiness, and I really wanted them to lose. Looking back,
they were great. They were great. One of the greatest defenses of all time. You can't not like it.
I know. I just didn't like the cockiness. Like Sherman, very cocky corner.
You're telling me they couldn't be cocky? I mean, you
Yeah,
had Sherman, Cam Chancellor, Brandon Brown, or Bobby White. They were one of the greatest defenses put together.
I know. I know. I just didn't like him. I want him to. The only guy in that team that I liked was Russell Wilson. Everybody else, not a huge Pete Carroll guy. I just wanted that team to lose, and I was happy when Butler got that interception. And now I'm looking back, and part of me wishes they didn't win because I don't like that Brady won another Super Bowl. So it just is how it is. But yeah, that was definitely a big moment. Crazy, like we already discussed it earlier. But
Yeah.
it's a
So
big
number 6 I had as well, the Joe Montana drive.
Mhm.
And then I had the Santonio Holmes catch at 7. So it's kind of back to back. We already discussed. If you have a different 6 or 7 or 7, I guess.
Yeah, 6 for me is the Super Bowl where you already talked about it. The tackle down by the goal line.
Oh yeah.
Titans, Rams. Then number 7, I'm probably got to go with like. Let me think about this. I haven't really. You put a list together. I didn't. Probably the Elway play. Yeah, Elway. The fact that he just showed like he wanted to win a Super Bowl. He was embarrassed in like 3 previous Super Bowls he went to, and overall, just like that showed he didn't care about his body. To go head first against 2 big dudes, he gets just destroyed. To get that first down, I think that definitely is a big moment and shows what Elway was all about.
So my bottom half of the list, number 8, I have the Philly special for the Eagles. Nick Foles catching the touchdown pass. Nick Foles, obviously the backup to Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz goes down. Foles comes in, leads them to the Super Bowl against Tom Brady and beats him. It's Andy catches a touchdown pass. It's just a great storyline for a backup quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I can go on to 9 and 10 if you want. I have number 9. A lot of people don't remember this. It's kind of overlooked. Jackie Smith dropped touchdown pass against the Steelers. Obviously, my Cowboys against your Steelers. Huge momentum swing. Cowboys down a touchdown. Jackie Smith, the last game of his career, one of the greatest tight ends of all time, drops a wide open touchdown pass. Ultimately, pretty much loses the game for the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that's a big moment in that game. You're a Cowboys fan. I'm a Steelers fan. Obviously, I'm happy that he dropped it. Those 2 teams, 2 of the best teams back in the 70s. The Steelers played them twice in that decade and beat them both times. And yeah, that was definitely a special rivalry back then. And they had some good battles, and that was definitely a big moment as far as how that game turned out because they only lost by 4, and
Yeah.
they ended up getting a field goal that drive. So ultimately, that would have tied it, I guess, if you count the points. But overall, that was definitely interesting. Number 8 for me, I'm gonna put the Bills missed field goal against the Giants.
Yeah.
That not only was that a crazy moment in that game, that kind of propelled them on to 4 straight losing Super Bowls. Which when you think about, it's crazy because like to get to the Super Bowl 4 times in a row, nobody's ever done that. And like to lose all 4 times. How do you do that? Like, it's crazy. You're such a good team that you get there 4 years in a row and you can't find a way to win once. And that was the only time they're actually like close to winning it too. They got like dominated against the Cowboys twice and then against the Redskins the year after they lost to the Giants. It's just I wonder what would have happened if they would have won that Super Bowl. Maybe they would have had the confidence like the next couple of years to find a way to win it again. I don't know. That was like ultimately possible dynasty that never really turned. It just kind of turned into like a joke, really.
Yeah.
Around.
Yeah. That team had a lot of good players. You had Jim Kelly, Thurman Thomas, Andre Reed, 3 Hall of Famers. I mean, definitely odd for them not to pull out one of the 4.
Mm-hmm. And then 9, I'm probably going to go with. Let me think about this one. Probably Lombardi just winning 2 Super Bowls in a row. I know that's not like one
Yeah.
Super Bowl, but this is kind of like started the whole Super Bowl mentality of like it made it popular. It kind of just set the foundation. And looking back at those first 2 Super Bowls and looking how great he was, they ended up naming the trophy after him. And
Yeah.
I just think that those 2 Super Bowls were very key to the foundation to the NFL as what we know it today.
I definitely agree with that. That was close. It was close on my list. I mean, it's iconic. You see the pictures of him getting carried off the field. Arguably one of the greatest teams or dynasties of all time. They had so many Hall of Famers. Too many to name, honestly. It was a great coach. I mean, greatest coach of all time, in my opinion. My number 10 is kind of one that gets overlooked. Not many people, I mean, if I say it, people are going to remember it. I have the Jacoby Jones 109-yard kick return touchdown. Personal favorite of mine. I remember watching the game. It was electric. It was right before the blackout in the Super Bowl, but 109 set the return record in the Super Bowl. I just think it was a very interesting, cool moment, record-breaking moment.
Yeah, that was a crazy Super Bowl. I mean, I thought it was going to be a blowout. I remember watching it. And then the 49ers, after the lights went out, which I don't know how that happens at a Super Bowl. I mean, but finding a way to come back and make it a game again. Colin Kaepernick, man, that was a long time ago. He looked like be a budding star. Turned out that a few years later he just kneels and nobody signs him. So, which I mean, he wasn't very good even when he was kneeling. He became a backup option basically. Yeah. And then my last moment, my 10th. I'm going to go with Philly special too. I mean, that was a ballsy call. That was 4th down.
Yeah.
And against Bill Belichick and Brady, who was coming off of a Super Bowl championship, they knew they had to pull out something that, they had to be aggressive. So they came out, knew what they were doing, executed it very well. I think another cool thing is that Brady had a trick play where he could have caught a ball, was wide open,
dropped it,
and then Foles caught it for a touchdown. And when you look at Foles and Brady over the course of their careers, like obviously Brady had a much better career, but Foles seemed to get the better of Brady. Whether he played him 3 times or won all 3 times or something like that, like something about that matchup that, and I think Brady is pretty bitter about it. He never wants to shake his hand.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, trick plays are always good, but in those situations, they don't get any better than that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we want to maybe talk about the Kyler Murray situation. There actually seemed to be some substance with that deleting stuff on social media. He doesn't seem to be happy in Arizona. Maybe some people are questioning his work ethic within the organization. So what do you think is going to happen with that?
I think currently it's a little too early to tell. Obviously, we can cover it more in depth as we get more details. I definitely think it's strange that he did that. I mean, you've seen players do that before, but to delete everything, and I don't think the situation was real. I mean, obviously we don't have insight into what's happening in Arizona, but they have a good team put together. They had a very good, at least first half of the season. Like we said last week, you got the DeAndre Hopkins injury. Everything kind of went downhill, but other than that, you have a solid team there. I don't know there must be something else to be unhappy about in Arizona.
Yeah, I just think Arizona is a very weird team in the sense that, they got some talent. I think Cliff Kingsbury is a solid head coach. I think he brought an interesting scheme, the air raid that Kyler Murray has done pretty well in. Problem is they're just a very inconsistent team. They're kind of like a boom bust team. They'll go out, they'll look really good, look like they can possibly win the Super Bowl one week, and then they'll go out and they look like they're a bad team the next. It's just they got to find a way to get some consistency, whether that's through a free agency or the draft, or just maybe changing some things up with their scheme, because it's a very boomer bust mentality. It seems like they have. You start to see that with the results on the field. So, yeah, I just think Kyler Murray, he'll probably end up staying with the Cardinals. I don't think he's going to get traded. But if that relationship happens to get fractured even more, I think that's just an interesting storyline to see where he might go.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, I hope to get some more details on it eventually. I don't know if we ever will, but definitely something we could discuss further if that happens.
All right, so got anything else, Darren?
Um, I guess kind of what we're gonna do since the off season, we're gonna like we did today, like the top 10 lists. We'll do more all-time rankings. I think that'll be something fun, off-season coverage. Obviously, any big media thing that happens during the time we'll cover. But I think other than that, we're gonna stick to recaps, top 10s, all-time lists. I think it'll be a good off-season.
Yeah, and I think, of course, as it gets closer to the draft, and we can start talking about more draft prospects and who we think we can make a mock draft, even though mock drafts are kind of dumb, I think. But it's the thing to do once draft time comes around, make mock drafts. And it's interesting.
Right.
So, yeah. So thank you guys for tuning in. See you next week.
See you
Have a
later.
good